In high school, there are always those mean girls, right? Well, turns out I was actually the mean girl, and it took something really awful for me to realize it. You see, I'm a pretty average kind of girl. Average looking, average grades, and I guess you could say I'm a little chubby. Yeah, I'm that invisible. But thank God, I had some good friends, so it's okay. I'm content with my mediocre life. But one day, I received a note in my locker. There's even a heart on it. My heart started beating so fast. Could it be? I read on and couldn't believe it. It was from a guy called Dave, and he was confessing his feelings for me. He even left his phone number. I was stunned. And then I got to the bottom of the note, and reality hit me smack bang in the face. "I'll be waiting for your call, Sarah." It wasn't for me. It was for Sarah. Of course it was for Sarah. All the boys fancied her. And who wouldn't? She was the prettiest girl in school. Plus her locker was right next to mine. So he just made a mistake. I was about to pop it in her locker when I saw her walking towards me. I tried to hide my disappointment that the note hadn't been for me. It drove me crazy to see her bouncing towards me with her blonde, curly hair and gorgeous smile. When she saw me, she started making small talk and even complimented me on my cardigan. It was so weird. What's so good about that to talk about? Was that compliment a kind of sarcasm or something? This angelic girl always gave me uneasy feelings. I bet she's that type of mean girl that's just being nice to your face, then later comes home and puts your name in her burn book. After she walked away, I scrunched up the note and threw it in my bag. Later that night, I did something insane. I texted Dave, pretending to be Sarah. I don't know why I did it, but after a few texts back and forth, it actually became quite fun. I looked him up on social media, and I couldn't believe how handsome he was. He was a year older, and so his classes were in another building. No wonder I hadn't noticed him before. Even our cafeterias were in different buildings, so he'd probably never seen me either. Not that he would notice me anyway, though. I felt so wild messaging him. I'd never done anything like this before, and it actually felt quite fun to pretend to be Sarah. I could just talk to him so freely and didn't have to overthink if I was sounding like a loser. Because in those moments, I was Sarah, the most popular girl in school, and it felt amazing. It didn't matter what I said, because I knew that David thought I was Sarah, and so everything I said to him was funny or cute. I even told my best friend Clara what I was doing, and she was amazed that I had the courage to do such a thing. I showed her our texts, and she was like, "Wow, girl, you are crazy." I continued to text him, though, and eventually I found I couldn't stop. I didn't know how long I could keep it up before I got caught, but I figured I'd get bored before then anyway. But then one day, he asked me to meet him after school, and I froze. Obviously, I couldn't meet him, nor let him approach the real Sarah in real life. So I made up some excuse about how my parents were super strict, and I'd get in trouble if anyone saw us. But he insisted, saying he had a gift for me. So I told him to leave it on top of the vending machine for me instead. To my surprise, he thought this was a really romantic idea, and so he agreed. Throughout the next week, he left me a gift every day. One day, it was a small crystal in the shape of a rose. The next day, it was a book of poetry. That was sweet. I didn't expect such delicacy from a jock. And then he asked me to meet him at the basketball game that Friday. He sounded so serious. I guess his patience had run out. Well, of course, it would be too absurd to go to the same school, but didn't see each other at all for 2 weeks straight, right? I had no other choice but to agree. But then, the panic kicked in. It was the finale of a big tournament at school, so everyone was going. And Sarah will be there too. And if Dave saw her, no, it would just be a disaster. My life would be over if they knew what I'd been up to. I asked Clara what I should do, and she was like, "What? You haven't ended that catfishing thing yet? You need to tell him now, before it's too late." She'd called me a catfish. I was so offended, so I just stormed off and said I'd make my own plan without her help. I knew exactly what I was going to do. When I got home, I raided my mom's medicine cabinet and found it. Her laxative syrup. I poured a little into a fruity drink I'd bought. Obviously, I'd followed the instructions and only poured a little, I mean, I didn't want to knock Sarah out. I just wanted to give her enough so she'd miss the game. Little did I know how badly this was all going to unfold. When I got to school the next day, I made sure I was early and put it on Sarah's desk. I heard footsteps, though, and almost jumped out of my skin. Luckily, it was just Clara. And when she asked me what I was up to, I just said I'd seen a boy dropping this off on Sarah's desk and had felt jealous, so I'd taken a look. Sarah later took it without hesitation, since receiving gifts from secret admirers wasn't new to her. Well, success. After PE later that day, Sarah drank it. But then, disaster struck. Her friends also wanted a sip, so she passed it around. And to my complete horror, Clara had a sip too. I wanted to jump in and stop them, but I couldn't. In the next class, everyone kept running to the bathroom. It was so awkward. Luckily, Clara only had one bathroom trip, and then she was fine. She thought she'd just eaten something bad. If only she knew the truth. Sarah must have drunk much more than the others, because she still looked pale after several trips. During break, I went over to her and asked if she was okay. Then I suggested she go home and rest, and even offered to help her walk to her car. At that point, I was actually more worried for her than for my plan. But, well, my plan did work anyway. Later that night, Dave texted me saying he couldn't find me at the basketball game. Well, me, meaning Sarah. I told him I wasn't feeling well, and so he said he'd send me a gift the next day to make me feel better. Well, that was the moment Clara came over and confronted me. She busted into my room saying, "I know what you did. Isn't that too much?" Then she said she'd seen the syrup in my backpack. I was stunned. But then I just told her that it was time those mean girls got a taste of their own medicine. But she was furious. She said, "You're ridiculous. Sarah isn't a mean girl. She's so sweet. She's even nice to you. Are you that blinded by jealousy that you'd sink this low to hurt her? You know what? You're the only mean girl around here." At that, she stormed off, leaving me standing there all alone. I froze there, dumbfounded. What just happened? What did I just hear? Was I the mean girl? That couldn't be true, right? Was Clara even my friend? How could she say that to me? She kept calling me catfish, then mean girl. This girl was really too much. But her words kept lingering in my mind. I thought about it. Sarah really had never done me any harm. So why was I being so mean to her? It wasn't right of me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I felt so guilty. I'd really let things get out of control. Why was I even doing this? It's not like I even really liked Dave. Sure, it felt nice to have a cute guy talking to me, but he was only talking to me because he thought I was Sarah. I didn't know what I was trying to do anymore. The day after, Dave had left a new gift box on the vending machine. I kept looking at it and wasn't sure if I should take it. But then suddenly, a guy noticed it, took it down, and saw it was addressed to Sarah. Then he quickly ran to class and gave it to her. It all happened so quickly, I didn't even have time to react. I ran after him to see what would happen next. Sarah and her friends were all gathered around the box and kept saying, "Dave? Isn't he your crush? That Dave Miller? Wow, girl, congrats! But why did he leave a gift for you?" I could see Sarah was blushing, and that's when I realized she actually liked him. Oh my God, I'd messed everything up! She was so happy, which made me feel even worse. Clara was right. I was the mean girl, not Sarah. I had to act quick before Sarah found Dave and they both discovered the truth. I texted Dave and asked him to meet me at the park in secret. As soon as I arrived, I could see he was there already, excitedly waiting. I hid behind a tree from afar and called him, and then I asked him to let me explain first. I told him I wasn't Sarah, and that I'd been doing this because I was just tired of feeling like a loser. But I didn't expect I'd taken this all too far. "I'm so sorry," I said to him. He was so confused and kind of angry at first. But then, after a while, he said that back in middle school, he'd been a bit of a nobody. So he could understand where I was coming from, but he needed time to process it all. When he was about to hang up, I said, "Wait!" Then ran towards him and said I was the girl on the phone and that I had good news for him. that the real Sarah actually did like him too, and that all he needed to do was go and get her. He looked unsure and said, "You're not lying to me again, are you?" Then I said, "I swear, she's got the biggest crush on you. Please let me make up for this all. I'll help you." He looked so happy, and I felt better knowing I was helping this happy couple get together. They deserved each other. I even helped him choose out the next gift for Sarah. Yep, the actual Sarah this time. And ever since then, I kind of became his wingman. As for Clara, of course, I apologized to her and thanked her for being a good friend and for knocking some sense into me. And now, Sarah and Dave are officially a couple, and I even hang out with them sometimes. In fact, Dave's friend has been hitting on me, so let's see if anything happens there. Maybe I'll finally get a real boyfriend.